Good day, dear friends. I welcome you to the feast of the presentation of the Lord. The theme of our reflection is Surrender, the source of our vocation. And they offered a sacrifice according to what was stated in the law of the Lord. Luke chapter 2, verse 24. God doesn't help those who help themselves. He helps those who trust in Him and rely on Him. Many of us know Jonathan Rumi, the actor portraying Jesus in the acclaimed TV series The Chosen, based on the Gospels. But few know his struggles before then. Rumi learned a fundamental lesson in surrender in May 2018. After living in Los Angeles for 8 years, Rumi was nearly broke, with just enough food for the day and no work on the horizon. Uncertain about his future, the actor poured out his heart and surrendered his career to God. According to him, I literally prayed these words, I surrender, I surrender. Later that day, he discovered 4 checks in the mail, and 3 months later, he was cast in the role of Jesus in The Chosen. Rumi learned that God will help those who trust in Him. Without surrender, it is impossible to experience abundance. Our feast is all about surrender. The offering of the child Jesus to God highlights the fact that all human life, all of life, comes from the hand of God, belongs to God, and that all our joy and fulfillment come involuntarily and generously using that life and our time in the service of God and our world. Our readings invite us on a journey of surrender. The focus is on the coming of the Lord into His temple. The prophet Malachi says, "And suddenly there will come to the temple the Lord whom you seek." Like a refiner's fire, Malachi says the Lord's coming will be powerful and painful. The responsorial psalm speaks of the entry of the Lord who is strong and mighty, the Lord mighty in battle. But there is a twist in the tale. Luke tells us that when the Lord does appear in the temple, it is as a powerless and poor baby. So the Lord comes to His temple, poor, helpless, and human. When we are attentive, there we will see the coming of the Lord not in power, but in weakness, poverty, and love. Many people were in the temple in Jerusalem on the day Mary and Joseph presented Jesus, but only Simeon and Anna saw Him. While others were preoccupied with their agenda, these pious people surrendered to God. Surrendering to God makes us clear-sighted to the presence of God, but it is challenging. This difficulty results from our most important possession, our free will. There is nothing wrong with having free will, since it allows us to choose. Unfortunately, it is an excellent source of temptation. The world engages our free will by telling us we can become whatever we choose. The paradox of free will is that God gave it to us so we can choose to offer voluntary and generous service to Him and humanity. Life becomes less of a struggle when we choose to live in this manner. When God created you, He gave you a specific set of DNA, making you suitable to fulfill a role in life that is unique to you alone. The question we need to ask always is, what does God want of me? Instead of asking, how do I become happy and problem-free? Distinguishing between achievement and vocation is essential in this regard and lies in this way of questioning. When achievement motivates us, we succeed without experiencing fulfillment because everything is superficial. Ironically, we may not appear successful when we live out our vocation, but we are often fulfilled. The reason is apparent. Vocation resonates with us what is deep in us. According to Parker J. Palmer in his book, Let Your Life Speak, and I quote, "Vocation does not come from willfulness. It comes from listening. I must listen to my life and try to understand what it is truly about, quite apart from what I would like it to be about. Or my life will never represent anything real in the world, no matter how earnest my intentions. Before I can tell my life what I want to do with it, I must listen to my life telling me who I am. I must listen to the truths and values at the heart of my own identity, not the standards by which I must live, but the standards by which I cannot help but live if I'm living my own life." End of quote. We all seek fulfillment, which we usually mask with our search for happiness. Unfortunately, happiness is not possible without living out our vocation. At baptism, we surrender to God's will, acknowledging that our lives belong to God to dispose of as He pleases. The lighting of the candles at the beginning of our celebration today reminds us of this reality. How have we allowed the light of Christ to shine through us? It is impossible to be joyful if we fail to surrender and live out our vocation in the world. Jonathan Rumi discovered this life-changing truth. This week, I invite you to do the following. Number 1, make an act of consecration to the Sacred Heart of Jesus. Number 2, choose God's will in relating to a problematic family member. Have a blessed week.